Good Saturday morning. This is Dr. McDaniel. I'm here at the horse farm, Baymar Farms out here in New Jersey. It's my daughter Jill. She always goes first on her lessons because she doesn't like crowds, basically. She doesn't like having to deal with other people in the ring with her. So, as I mentioned earlier, Jill is 13 and she's been riding since she was 5. We started the very month she turned 5. Her birthday is January. Her birthday is January 23rd. We started about a week after she turned 5 years old to the horse farm, and she had a couple of close run-ins with some of the other students when there used to be group classes around the same time as the private classes. So we started coming earlier. We used to come at 9. But for the last probably about 6 years or so, we've been coming at 8. And she does 8 to 8:30. And my daughter Joy, who just turned 9 last week, she's been riding since she was 3. And she is pretty fearless. She doesn't have any issues with crowds. So now there aren't any group classes that start around the same time as they're here. There's one that starts right after we finish, so a few people come into the ring. But Joy doesn't have any problems, so she always does 8:30 to 9. Anyways, today's Saturday. It's really nice out here in New Jersey, nice and sunny. Give a little tour of some of the land. There's always another guy. He rides. He's really good. He does a lot of jumping and I don't know what they call it. I forget what they call it, like trick riding, where they do certain types of prancing, things like that. So he does a lot of that. He's really good. I think he comes out with his wife or something. He's been coming here for the last couple of years. See, he just did a jump. So thought about today what I'd talk about. Last couple of days I spoke on prenatal vitamins, so obstetric related. Gonna bounce back to GYN related today, and I'm gonna speak on Depo Provera oral contraceptives. I get a lot of questions about Depo Provera. Seems easy. I remember when Depo first came out here in the States. It came out around I feel like it came out around the late 90s, and it was awesome because we only had birth control pills to offer at that time. And then around the 90s, late 90s, mid to late 90s, here in the States it came out. Around that time we could offer Depo Provera. Depo is great because it's just a shot once every 3 months. So instead of taking a pill every day at the same time, instead of popping that pill every day at the same time, you just come into the office, you get a shot every 3 months. So when Depo first came out, it was super popular. People loved it. All you have to do is come into the office every 3 months, get your shot, and it's easy. But people quickly dropped off from that scene because Depo, there isn't any estrogen in it. It's only progesterone. And because of that, the side effects from progesterone, especially the initial side effects, are pretty strong. And a lot of people had issues with it. So estrogen and progesterone are kind of yin-yang hormones. Estrogen builds blood up in the uterus to cause a menstrual cycle, and progesterone cleans it out. So progesterone is responsible for a menstrual cycle, and it's also responsible for premenstrual symptoms. Because of that, the side effects, especially the first first 2 to 3 shots of the Depo are pretty strong for a lot of people. So the usual premenstrual symptoms: moody, irritable, anxious, depressed, bloating, appetite change. Those were the big ones. Those are the main ones that people experienced when they were on the Depo Provera shot. And of course, those are pretty undesirable. The biggest issue with the Depo shot is that most people have wacky bleeding. So they're bleeding every day, bleeding every other day, period for 2 to 3 weeks, and then nothing for maybe a week or so, and then another period for 4 to 6 weeks straight. So it's unpredictable how frequent or how long the bleeding may last. But the reliable factor is that there will be some form or some degree of abnormal bleeding. I'll show you some of the horses. Some form or some degree of abnormal bleeding for the first 6 months for most women, and for some women longer than that, for even a year. I've had patients who've had the abnormal bleeding throughout the 4 shots. This is Sky. Sky has one eye that's blue, one eye that's brown. So it's very difficult for most women to tolerate that kind of bleeding for an entire 6, 9, even 12 months is difficult. So most women drop off pretty quickly because it's just too unpredictable and too cumbersome. The women I found over the years, the women who tend to love the Depo, stick with it for a really long time, are the women who don't have that kind of strong response to the Depo. So they'll usually have maybe some abnormal bleeding for the first shot, several weeks to maybe 3 months or so, or women who immediately respond to the progesterone, Provera in it, and that's the hormone that cleans out the uterus, causes a menstrual cycle, but they respond strongly to it so that they end up not having a cycle at all. Women who end up not having a cycle at all after like the first 6 weeks or so, they have maybe a little bit of spotting or a little bit of staining for a couple of days every few months. They're the ones who stick with it for the longest because it was easy. Now, I do warn people, a lot of women will have increased appetite because that's a predictable premenstrual symptom for most women. And because of that, they will often gain weight. So I get a lot of people complain, oh, I don't want to go on a birth control pill that causes weight gain. Every 5 quadruple moons does someone say, oh, I want to go on the birth control that causes weight gain. I need to gain weight. Most of us don't need to gain weight. We need to lose weight. And most women don't want to go on the pill that's going to make it easy for them to gain weight. So most women are not going to be happy on the Depo shot simply because most women will have some weight gain on that shot. On average, it will usually be about 10 pounds of weight gain or so over the course of the year. And that's just unacceptable for most women. Oh, I'm on the wrong side of the sun. Sorry. So the big deal with the Depo is that there's a relatively long adjustment or side effect time frame where premenstrual symptoms, which most people don't like anyways, and where irregular bleeding and can occur, and weight gain is common. So for most women, this is not going to be a good pill for them. There's just too many It's not going to be a good contraceptive with them. There's just too many undesirables associated with it. And then for the women who do get adjusted very quickly and they like it, the catch is that progesterone is the hormone that causes all those side effects, but it's also the hormone that in general should not just be given all by itself, because one needs estrogen to help build bone strength. And the catch is the Depo Provera, since it doesn't have estrogen and it's counteracting your body's natural estrogen, which is the hormone that's trying to build up bone strength, the Depo can potentially minimize or decrease or even prevent your body's natural tendencies and natural ability to build up bone strength, bone density. 32 years old is considered peak bone mass, and that's because up through 32 years old, one can develop thicker, stronger, denser bones. But after 32, we can't build any stronger bone mass or bone density. What we have is what we have. We can maintain it, or it can deteriorate, but it can't get any stronger. So the catch is most women who are on the Depo Provera shot, they're on it in their 20s to 30s, and they're minimizing the ability for their bodies to build up the bone strength. And then once they go off of the shot, if they liked it and they did well with it, they're going to go off of it maybe in their mid-30s when they want to have children. So the studies showed that because women were going on the Depo during this time of peak bone mass and bone growth and bone density, and were coming off after they had the capability to build stronger, denser, thicker bones, there was a slightly increased rate of brittle bone disease or thinning bones, which is osteopenia, osteoporosis. So the catch with the Depo is that it came out with what we call a black box warning. So on all of the packaging, there was a black box which had the warning that recommended women not stay on the Depo shot for more than 2 years consecutively. 2 years, 3 years max consecutively. So for every 2 to 3 years on, the recommendation was to take 1 solid year off. And the studies did show that in that 1 solid year off, most women were able to rebuild whatever bone loss they had that had occurred, they had suffered during the 2 to 3 years that they were on the Depo shot. So the black box warning, combined with the fact that it took a while for most women to get adjusted to that Depo Provera shot in the first place, made it less desirable than the fact that it was easy, a shot every 3 months for most women. And then you add on top of that the fact that most people have lots of premenstrual symptoms, and there is a definite weight gain for 90+% of women on the Depo shot. It's not as easy as it sounds. Sorry, I have bad allergies. I took a couple of pills before we came here, but they're starting to wear off and the allergies are starting to kick in. Oh well. So that's the main thing with the Depo Provera shot. It's simple, it's easy, it's once every 3 months. It suppresses ovulation, so it's perfect for birth control. But the catch is that it's only progesterone. Progesterone has the annoying side effect of causing premenstrual symptoms. And with the Depo shot, weight gain, and then the irregular bleeding pattern for the first 1 to 2 shots, sometimes 3, along with the black box warning of potentially decreased bone density, really puts a lot of negatives in the box. And then lastly, with the Depo shot is everyone is supposed to take calcium, vitamin D anyways to help with bone strength, but with this birth control, it's even more important because of the potential increased risk with the bone loss. So everyone's supposed to take calcium and vitamin D supplements. So 1,500 milligrams of calcium, 800 units of vitamin D. So those are all of the pros and the cons with the Depo shot. Oh boy, I forgot to sneeze. So I hope that's been helpful. This is Dr. McDaniel. This is Dr. McDaniel on GYN Corner. It's Saturday, May 18th, and I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the day. I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you.